Hi, everyone. This is John Daly. I'm here with my co host, Thomas D. House, for a special holiday end of the year episode of the Reagan Caucus Podcast. This will be our last episode of 2025. We are going to be taking a short break for the holidays, and then we will return in early January for season 2 of this podcast, where we'll be talking to more great guests about important topics in the world of politics, culture, and beyond. Thomas, Reagan Caucus Action, and you and I launched this podcast in May of this year. Today's episode will be our 36th, believe it or not. And since you are the founder of Reagan Caucus Action and the creator of this podcast, I want to start off this episode by asking you, how do you think we're doing with it?
Well, I'm really happy with it. I mean, this is the first project we have for Reagan Caucus Action, which I started around the same time as the podcast. The next project will be a website, and we'll have articles on there. But I've kind of decided to go slowly with it. But as far as the podcast, I'm pretty happy about it. I get a lot of good feedback from people. You know, some big names people are watching our podcast sometimes and saying nice things about it. That they've been saying that they really enjoy our podcast. I think right now on our YouTube, we have like 487 subscribers after only, what was it? You said, so 7 months.
Mm-hmm.
Our
Well, I think
Spotify
less
is
than that,
150 subscribers, I think. And I was telling you the other day that so we've had some big guests, people like Jonah Goldberg, David French, James Lindsay. Those were the big guests that we've had, where they got over 1,000. I think Jonah Goldberg had 4,100 views on YouTube alone. David French 1,600. James Lindsay 3,100 on YouTube. But even it's gone up, it's crept up. So like even the smaller, I mean the lesser known guests are still getting almost like 500 views an episode if you combine the different platforms.
Mm-hmm.
So I think for 7 months and how we haven't spent a dime on advertising. We just push it on our social media accounts. I think I'm pretty happy with our progress so far. So I expect, these things tend to follow a curve, and I think there's a good chance that 2026 will be a real. I think we should probably have a good year. I'm excited to find out what we do by the end of 2026. It seems like, and just my own subjective, my personal judgment, I think that the quality of the episodes has been good. I don't know what do you think, John?
Oh yeah, no, I think we're doing great. I've been thoroughly enjoying co-hosting this podcast, but far more importantly, I think we've been accomplishing the goals that were laid out at the beginning. I think this is the podcast is serving its purpose as an educational tool that offers informed, honest insight on all kinds of important topics. Everything from constitutionality to foreign policy to legislation to political ideology, our institutions. We've covered a lot here, and we'll definitely continue to do that. And I must say, you brought this up. I've been very impressed with the caliber of hosts. Or I'm sorry, hosts, not hosts, guests. The hosts are great too, Thomas. But the guests that we've been able to get on this show, a number of them have been through connections I've made over the years. A lot of them came from connections that you've made. We've had people reach out, which is nice, out of nowhere, and say, hey, I'm in this field. I'd like to talk to you guys about this if you're interested in doing it. And we definitely appreciate that. They people seem to like what we're doing here, and they want to contribute in some way, which is what we're seeing with some of these guests. And I couldn't be more grateful for everyone who's given us their time and their insight, and I'm sure you feel the same way. Also for the people that tune in every week and listen to us, I'm very grateful for them as well.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm just I feel like I mentioned those big name people, but we have some other people that are I think a big deal in a different way. Some very insightful people. We had you had that special episode, I think. What was it? Was it 4th of July? You had Kimberly Ross.
Yes.
Right. And we had Emily Zanotti on there, and that was really nice. We had who else? We had Kathy Young on there.
Mhm.
Kathy Young's been a journalist. I've been reading her things for years. She was at Reason, and I think she's at the Bulwark too.
Mhm.
Stephanie Slade we had on to talk about fusionism. That was awesome. I'd like to have her back on next year when her book comes out.
Mhm.
Let's see who else. James Patterson, my co-author, he came
Oh
on
yeah.
there with us. We had Phil Magnus, the infamous Phil Magnus, who everyone should know by now. Is an yeah.
Just for his meme work, Phil deserves credit. I mean,
Yeah,
he's an intellect. He has all this great insight, but
yeah.
his meme game is amazing as well.
Yeah, no, it's right. Yeah, I mean, he's a established economic historian who's become a political assassin, and no, not assassin, but, like
That sounded funny.
intellectual
We
assassin, an
we
investigative.
don't need a defamation lawsuit on here,
Yeah,
Thomas.
yeah, no. He's never killed anybody or tried to. He's just but he will, if you are acting in bad faith and you're an intellectual or an influencer, he will call you out and he will prove it to the world.
Yeah, oh, that's true. Well, I'm curious. This brings up a good question. So, it's what are some of your your favorite? I know we don't want to make anybody feel bad, but of the
Mhm.
episodes we've done, are there certain episodes or discussions or guests that really stood out for you this year? Ones that you thought were especially strong or memorable.
Um, I actually, I really much enjoyed our conversation with David French, and he was especially charitable about my poor audio quality on my mic. That, I mean, you couldn't even understand what I was saying that episode, but apparently David French could understand what I was saying because he's such a good listener.
Yeah, see
And
that's worth dissecting right there, because that was such a strange episode. Because I mentioned this to you off air, but we were talking before I hit the record button, and you sounded perfect. And then
Mhm,
we start talking, and you sound like you're yelling through down the street,
mhm.
And I'm
Yeah,
having trouble hearing what you're saying. Yet David French somehow understands every single word you are saying, and I'm like,
yeah.
is the problem on my end? And then he kind of made a
No, I
comment
think
later that
it's
he had
something
trouble. That was
special.
just a
He's got
weird
that
technical
bionic
episode.
hearing or something, you know.
Yeah, but
So no,
yeah, I guess
that
he
must
is a
be
good
on David
listener.
French's side. But also the James Lindsay episode, talking about the woke right, was very good, and there's a reason it was popular. It was very interesting, and the Jonah Goldberg episode was also very fun. I mean, he's always fun. He's very funny
Yeah.
and entertaining. You can tell why he's successful with his own podcast and his own media work. Besides those ones, let me think. Yeah, like I said, the Steph Slade one was really good. Um, what else? What else? Where were some really? I did enjoy talking to Cliff twice. I wasn't
Mhm.
there the second time, but I thought the Ukraine episodes were very informative. Obviously, that's a big issue for us. Um, let's see, who else?
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
we had Victoria on, and she did a great job.
Victoria Holmes.
Victoria
Yeah.
Holmes, and then the next week we had her grandpa, Kim Holmes. Just kidding, there's no relation, but Kim Holmes is former assistant secretary of state. That was a big catch for us, and I thought he was very good. I mean, very interesting. He had a lot of insightful things to say.
That's interesting. You said it's funny because when you first passed along that title that he was the assistant secretary of state, I for some reason I had it in my head like on the Office where you're like assistant to the regional manager. I thought it
Oh,
was assistant to, and then I read that I'm like, oh wait a minute, he's a pretty big deal here. This is a big guest we're having on, but yeah, I thought he was fantastic. I wasn't really following him up
yeah,
until you mentioned that he was coming on. Then I found his Twitter account, and I'm like, I think he was sort of new maybe to Twitter or hadn't weighed in much, but he's really become sort of an online voice that's very strong on a lot of these topics. So yeah, that was a really good catch.
yeah. I don't remember. I started following him before other people realized he was on Twitter. You know, he had like 2,000 followers or something,
Yeah.
but on his bio it said assistant secretary of state, former assistant. I'm like, that's kind of a big deal.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and
But
he's
he
been a
also
strong
used to be
voice.
the vice president of Heritage Foundation, and it was a good timing to have that episode because that was right after the big scandal with Kevin Roberts,
Hmm.
um, calling everybody who opposed Tucker Carlson a vicious coalition or
Yes.
venomous coalition.
Venomous, yeah, that's right, venomous.
Yeah.
I'll say too. I personally learned a lot from the Brent Orwell episode on AI. Enough
Yeah.
that it sort of even kind of scared me. He wasn't as scared to talk about it as I was to hear about it, but yeah, it was pretty interesting. Another great guest, Mike Nelson. We had him on
McNelson,
twice
yeah.
to talk about DOJ stuff, and he was great. I think Mike, with his background and his skill set. He's also a very good writer. I think
hmm
I think he has a bright future ahead of him as a commentator on military and national security topics.
hmm
He's already been published multiple times in the Atlantic and the Dispatch, and I think we'll probably be seeing a lot more of him. He's also
hmm
was very kind. We brought him in that second time as a last second guest because someone had to bail, and he really kind of bent over backwards to be there for us. So yeah, we really appreciate. um, you had mentioned Cliff Smith. He was our
hmm
very first guest, and he was also a return guest. Very smart guy. He really cares about what we're doing here on this podcast. He sends us advice from time to time, which we very much appreciate. So shout out to Cliff, who I know is listening. He's an avid listener of the show. We're going to reach out and have you back on the podcast very soon. I was just talking to Thomas about that before we hit the record button. So yeah, we've
hmm
had some
Yeah.
great guests, and I know we got others we're working on right
Yeah.
now for
Yeah. We
next year.
apologize to anyone we don't mention here. Maybe that's the benefit of not having a list in front of us. Now we have an excuse if we forget your name.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. So many good ones. Yeah, and
Mike, I want to say about Mike Nelson, I wouldn't be surprised if he ended up having a political appointment position at some point in the federal government. I feel like he knows a lot of stuff and he has got really good background. Plus, he doesn't agree with me, but I think he looks like Saul Goodman off Better Call Saul.
so this is good. This is a good recap episode. We thought, this is what this is supposed to be for the end of the year. But I will say, Thomas very much confuses me when he identifies people's celebrity lookalikes. So he says, okay, he says I look
I
like
must
Joe
be
Biden.
face blind or
I'll let
something because
people.
like people don't agree with my assessments.
So Thomas says I look like Joe Biden without my glasses. So I'll do a little bit of a Joe Biden look.
Yeah.
I had never been told that before,
Yeah.
but
Well, what
um,
was Joe Biden's? What's his brother's name again?
oh.
He was the one who was making all those deals and stuff.
Yeah, I know exactly, but I'm forgetting. Is James
Yeah.
Biden? Is that
Huh?
right? Is it
Was
James
it Jim
Biden?
Biden? Maybe.
Jim Biden?
Yeah.
But
No,
yeah. Well,
anyways, I
he
mean,
definitely
if
looks
the
like Joe
audience
Biden.
disagrees, they saw I probably just am face blind like my wife. I benefit from my wife's face blindness because she thinks I look better than I do. So
Well, that's good. That's good to have a spouse like that. So
yeah.
yeah. So I did want to ask you. So we're recording this on Friday, December 19th. It'll air early next week. So we recently saw a couple of we talk of course about the future of the Republican Party and the conservative movement quite a bit.
Mhm.
And Ben Shapiro recently made a couple of really high profile speeches.
Yeah.
One of them was in front of the Heritage Foundation, and the
Yeah.
other was to the TPUSA crowd. Shapiro really drew a strong line in the sand, I think, between Reagan conservatism and the groups of people who exist in various factions on the modern right who have, I think, dealt some real blows to the conservative movement. Over the past decade, you have the conspiracy theorist crowd, the populists, the post-liberals, the groypers. Some of those
Mhm.
intersect, some don't. But Shapiro, he's a prominent voice on the right. He carries some influence. Do you think the stand he's taking here and has been taking for at least the past few months could end up making a real difference for the future of the conservative movement?
Yeah, I
I
think
think,
so. Ben Shiro's, you know, Ben Shiro has worked very hard to maintain credibility among conservatives. He's maybe sometimes I think there's trade-offs there, right? I mean,
yeah,
um, I sometimes when you just somebody like who calls it like it is, you lose credibility with conservatives because they want you to be more tribal and they want you to always side with, be against the left or all these other things and always side with the right. And so in some ways, Ben Shapiro's made some compromises there. But one of the advantages is he's maintained credibility, and he has picked his battles. Probably picked his battles better than like a lot of people have. And now he has a real battle, and it's against the sort of woke right, new right, racist right, anti-Semitic right, nativist right. And he's taking this on now, and I suspect that people on the right will listen when it's him. I mean, it was an awkward position because Heritage Foundation was put in an awkward position because he was calling out the Heritage Foundation to the Heritage Foundation, and even they wanted to put a clip of him on their website to say, "Oh, Ben Shapiro spoke." They left out the part that was critical of what they were doing, right? But
yeah, I mean, that was interesting. He actually called out their platform, or at least what had been their platform for a very long time, and really just kind of went point by point, pointing at how the Tucker wing of the right is at direct odds with so many of the things Heritage is supposedly stands for, or at least stood for until quite recently. And I think it was very effective. I think that took some guts on Shapiro's part.
Oh yeah, and I like what Shapiro's doing, and I think he's going to do a lot of good. He's obviously made a couple of bad business decisions over the last few years with some of the people he's hired over at it's called the Daily Wire, right? Yeah. But I think he's redeeming himself right now, and I'm glad that he's around and he's not afraid to call some of this stuff out. I mean, he's a very good speaker. He's very intelligent, and he's very persuasive. I know a couple of people I respect on social media were saying that they were like on fire after listening to his speech, and that they watched it twice. So that's good to hear. I was never, to tell you the truth, I was never, he wasn't really my cup of tea, Ben Shapiro. I'm not, but I don't think I was his intended audience, But I've never disliked him, and now when he does stuff like this, I actually have positive respect for him,
Yeah, he was interesting because I followed him quite a bit in 2015, 2016 in the lead up to that election, and he was a very strong voice at that time against Donald Trump and where Trump was trying to take us. And I believe he actually even quit from Breitbart to start all of his new stuff. Kind of it was like a principled departure. I believe he took some offense to one of their employees kind of being manhandled by Corey Lewandowski at the time, and people were sort of turning on that individual who had been manhandled, and I think that was sort of the last straw for him. He left and started his own thing. One of the things I remember about him is which is sort of ironic in regard to what was to come later, but his major concern with Donald Trump as president at that time would be that Trump would take what has been built of the conservative movement and sort of rebrand it as Trumpism, and then conservatism would lose its meaning. It would what we would then think of conservatism would be whatever Trump does, and that actually ended up happening to a large extent. And then it was sort of disappointing at that point to see then, Shapiro sort of latch on to Trumpism and to an extent, not to the extent that a lot of people did, to pull in viewers, to pull in MAGA people. And that has been disappointing for some time. I think he has done better with this than a lot of people have as far as walking the line goes. But still, yeah, it's frustrating. But you also brought up this other good point, too, that I think in order to change the hearts and minds of people in today's right, you have to sort of have a certain level of MAGA cred for them to even listen to you. If you're people like a David French, you're not going to be able to change many hearts and minds on the right because he remained principled all along. They've sort of discounted his type as the never Trump crowd. But if you have someone who's been able to carry a voice during this era, like Shapiro has, you do have that effect. And I think there is sort of I don't think he's framed it this way, but there is sort of a repentance going on. I think we're at a point where Shapiro sees, okay, he might not say that, but I think he recognizes that he was part of the problem. And he's now sees where things have gotten, because a lot of this stuff has been unchecked largely, and he's doing some really important work right now. I think he's doing, as far as the conservative movement goes, I think he's doing God's work in bringing people, kind of trying to bring some sanity back to an insane situation. So yeah, I do have the frustrations that he stayed in a certain spot for a while, but I mean, I am completely appreciative of what he's doing right now.
And I think that's really the place. He's finding the place right now where I think we have the most chance of success for reforming the conservative movement, is creating that wedge. I guess mostly, not obsessing too much about Trump right now, but creating that wedge within the conservative, or within right wing, between people who are actually conservative and the sort of woke right thing. And that James Lindsay is also trying to create that wedge right there. And even if you don't like Trump, that's probably the place to really be focused right now, because it's really, I think, where we can fight for a better future after Trump is taking the movement away from the sort of woke right portion of it.
Yeah, that was an interesting point you made, because he did at some point, and I was watching parts of that. I didn't watch the whole speech in front of I think it was the TP USA crowd. He said this during, but he is trying to build a wedge. I think Shapiro is you're right. He actually spoke positively about Trump in that speech at one point. I think at one point he said, what people like Tucker and Candace are doing is putting like Trump in a tough spot, or so I think he actually referred to Trump as a good guy at one point, along with I think Dan Bongino and Kash Patel, which I don't think he actually believes that, but I think he sees this as an incremental process where he's got to wean these radical elements, kind of put them at odds with maybe a less destructive form of Trumpism at this point. So yeah, I think and maybe that's the answer, is you got to sort of wean people away from the most radical parts of this of the modern right, and using Trump as sort of a prop to be able to pull that off.
Yeah, I mean, Trump has become so what do they say, like Teflon? What do they say? Where
Teflon Don?
Yeah. I mean, you can't. His people have clung to him because they see him as the enemy of their enemies, and they've come to associate criticism of him with bad faith criticisms of the enemy. And sometimes that's true. I mean, because people who have not been as careful about their criticisms of the president have seized on things which divide most of America, that aren't really issues that aren't beyond the pale. It's issues that a lot of Americans agree with the President on, or something. And when you attack him as like this Hitler-like figure for that, then you're calling them Hitler, and then it's like, then it backfires, right? Whereas if they waited for those things that were beyond the pale, they would have been much more effective in their criticisms. Obviously, this recent thing with the president, his response to the death of Rob Reiner was certainly beyond the pale. And it wasn't uncommon for you to see normal defenders of the president criticize him for it, to insist that he take down the nasty tweet he had about, or it's not nasty, Truth Social. What do you call them? A Truth? What are those things called?
Yeah, is it called a Truth? He posted a Truth. Is that how they say it?
Yeah, so I mean, that was awful. I mean, I can't imagine being so petty. With the tragic death of Rob Reiner and his wife, to use that as a opportunity to pile on him. But
it's funny because that sort of put reflexive defenders in a tough spot, reflexive
Mhm.
Trump defenders, because when news first broke of that story, which is terrible. I was talking with Bernie Goldberg
Mhm.
on the other on one of the other podcasts I do a
Mhm.
few, but I personally can't think of a worse way to die than being murdered to death by someone you brought into this world, murdered to
No.
death, by stabbed to death by someone you brought into this world that you loved, obviously. It's just terrible. Yeah,
Mhm.
and I
And
think
there's
everybody.
clearly some drugs and insanity going on, probably, hopefully.
Oh yeah, and
Let's
I think
hope it's insanity.
yeah,
You
I hope
know?
so too. I mean,
Yeah.
plenty of evidence that shows that mental problems were involved there.
Yeah.
But I think when the news of that broke, and especially the part about the son being involved, and I think the right really did collectively. Uh, they didn't pounce, they didn't celebrate, they didn't do
Mhm.
what a number of liberal lefties did in Charlie Kirk after he was murdered. But
Mhm.
and then, of course, a few hours later, and it's funny because conservatives, many people on the right were even sort of congratulating themselves and,
Yeah.
making that distinguish, and pointing that out that they were different from the left. And then, of course, a few hours later, Trump comes out, says the most horrific thing imaginable
Yeah.
on Truth Social. You still had some people that were calling him out, which is good. You
Yeah.
had some other people who had previously, expressed sympathy for what happened to the Reiners, suddenly backtrack.
Yeah.
Like, well, it's a good point. Rob Reiner
Yeah.
was pretty mean to Trump, and I'm like, oh my god. But I'm
Yeah.
glad not everybody did it. I'm glad it was, it
Yeah.
was just the Kurt Schlichters and all those that
Yeah.
side that were that waffled like they always do. But I
Yeah.
think most people still kind of recognized that was what he did was unacceptable.
Yeah. I guess that, um, I think you and I are both people who have a diverse palette of voices on our social media and
Yeah.
on our media we consume. So we're less inclined to think that all people on the left celebrated Charlie Kirk's murder, which wasn't even close to the truth. That was
Right.
if you were just only watching Fox News and your social media was you pre-trained by you to only have conservative or right-wing voices on it, then you might think that. But the same thing happened with this. Is most of the people on the if somebody I can imagine somebody on the Blue Ski is it called Blue Sky?
Blue Sky, yes.
Somebody on Blue Sky saying, thinking that all the people on the right were celebrating it or something, and that's
Yeah.
just not true either. Although
No.
their president, although the president could have been, well, it was awful. But I mean, you saw that James Woods and Rob Schneider
Yeah.
are two actors who have almost embarrassed themselves in sycophancy of the president over the last couple of years. They were just completely uh, they were so sad about it happening, and they did not defend the president at all about his comments. I think they probably criticized him because they'd both known Rob Reiner, and they just thought it was awful, awful thing. So it was good to see that.
It is.
Sorry, I shouldn't drop that random insult of James Woods and Rob Schneider, but it turned into a compliment. Good for them that they did the right thing. Um,
I think there's a larger point to that too, which some people have put out there, is that so much of Trumpism is basically taking delight in trolling others and going
mhm.
after others and really getting in a rib kick when you can, people on the other side, until it hits really close to home. And I think
Yeah,
that's what we're talking about with James Woods and Rob Schneider, where it's like they knew this guy, and I think they didn't, come out, I think, and slam the president too hard. I mean, I think they did. They did
yeah,
criticize him, but I think it gives people pause. It gives these people who got caught up in all this like a moment to sort of reflect and like, wow, and um, I'm glad that people like that draw a line, but it would be great to sort of understand the ugliness of this stuff and reject it before it hits that close to home. But
yeah. No, that's right. That's right. I think it's a there. We all have friends and family who treat this stuff as entertainment, and and it becomes this matter of sports, almost like what team you're on. and they cheer and they laugh and whatever. Maybe those personalities have a tougher time making this stuff concrete to themselves, you know, because if there was if they had any flesh and blood connection with the people where the cruelty is directed, something would kick in and they'd be a much kinder person about it. And I don't understand the psychology of it, but I've seen it over and over again. But I think that's right. I think if something can make it more concrete to you, then you become more critical of it. And obviously, we're very abstract about some of the excesses of the immigration enforcement that are happening. For a lot of people, it's very abstract, but it becomes real if you know somebody who undergoes it. So.
Now, that's a really good point. I mean, we're seeing some of people that are, I believe, related to members of the Trump administration who have been affected by this, and those become big stories. But yeah, you're right. I mean, people, I think you look at the stuff with ICE. Donald Trump did quite well with Hispanic Americans in the last election, and now I think his disapproval rating is something like over 70%, with that group. And I think it really is, it has to do with what we're talking about. Everybody knows, not everybody, but a lot of people know people that have been personally affected by the excesses of what's going on with ICE right now. And it takes, a wake up call like that to realize, wow, this is not just some abstract thing that doesn't really affect me. This is happening to real people I know. And I think that's sort of another example of this point.
Yeah, I don't fully understand the motive, because he was very popular at border security and he had that pretty much fixed right away.
Yeah.
This other stuff. I mean, if he would have just stuck with that, he'd be very popular on immigration. But so I don't know what the extra motivation is of these people that want to go further than that.
I think it's Stephen Miller. Miller. I don't think Donald Trump is as invested in this stuff as some people might believe he is. And I think we're seeing this example where he's just kind of letting members of his cabinet do whatever they want to do. And sometimes, we see that with RFK Jr. too. I don't think Trump's behind any of this stuff, but he's letting RFK Jr. do these crazy things. I think Hegseth, in some cases, it's the same sort of thing. A lot of times when Trump is asked about these moves by his, upper cabinet, he doesn't seem to actually know about them in some cases. We see that with Ukraine too, with what's going on with Ukraine. Some of this stuff seems to come as a surprise to him when he's asked about it. So I think he's that's sort of the problem, a big problem in the second term too. He's not, he doesn't really care what's going on with upper members of his cabinet.
Well, I think that's the most attractive thing about Trump for people, is that he believes whatever the last person he spoke to believed, so if you can get his ear and you're friendly with them and nice to him, and he's apparently very friendly and at a personal level when you're like just meeting him face to face, and he's very agreeable, and since he doesn't have a lot of strong opinions himself, he's very persuadable, but then that only lasts as long as the next guy persuades him the other direction.
Yeah, I think that's right. I did want to mention too, in this, as this being a recap episode, I do want to actually thank you, Thomas, personally for your efforts, including the long hours and work that you've put in on the Reagan Caucus and the Reagan Caucus Action.
Well, thank you too. You do a lot more work for this podcast for sure. So.
That's all right. That's all right. I'm happy to do it, but I just kind of want to add on a personal level. It has some meaning for me, and I don't know if I've even brought this up, but you and I first became acquainted. I think it was in April of last year. Someone a common acquaintance put us together, and I interviewed you for Bernie Goldberg's website. This is kind of back at the beginning of the Reagan Caucus stuff, and but I kept an eye on what you were doing after that, and I was very impressed and appreciated. I appreciated what you were doing. My father, I think I mentioned, he passed away back in February of this year, and after a long 2 years of very poor health, I was sort of my mom's elderly too. He was about 90, so I was doing a lot of the work, caring for him, managing so many of the elements of his life during those last 2 years. And it consumed a lot of my life. I mean, I was getting calls all the time, hospital calls, things that would happen. But yeah, it really took over much of my life. After he passed, I was able to I had more time to sort of dedicate myself to other things, and I at that point I wanted to take on something new and meaningful in my area of political and cultural interest. So I reached out to some people, including you, and I ended up here on this podcast doing this, and I'm having these weekly conversations, which I think are indeed meaningful and educational. And I think they are making a positive difference, a little bit at a time. So I want to thank you, Thomas, for this opportunity. I've really enjoyed this, what we've been doing.
Oh yeah, I enjoy it too. Thank you so much, John. You make it. I couldn't do it without you. I don't even know how to do anything like you do all the stuff you do for this. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Sure. No, I think we complement each other quite well. It's yeah.
Now to the audience, we're going to John and I are going to be at the Principal's First Summit in February.
Yes.
And that'll be opportunity to record a bunch of podcasts with people. So.
Yeah, we know there'll be a number of people who probably listen to this that'll probably be there. This is just sort of I was planning on going there all along, and Thomas, I think you just made the decision recently. So yeah, we're gonna have a Reagan Caucus vendor table there. So come by, stop by, and say hi to us. We are going to be doing some recording some podcasts that we're going to be putting out there. We haven't ironed down all the details yet, but yeah, definitely look for us. We won't be in the vendor area the entire time. You'll be able to find us in other areas during this summit. But yeah, it's we're looking forward to it. I think that's going to be, and actually, Thomas, you and I have never actually met in person, so this will be our first time we've met. So I'm looking forward to that as well.
Well, maybe we can get some big name there. Like I don't know who, who would be a big name that would show up at Principals First, maybe.
They haven't announced that many people yet, but there will be. I mean, they get a good lineup every time. Last year for my own podcast, this is before the Reagan Caucus podcast started, I got to talk to Noah Rothman, interviewed him, Stephen Hayes from the Dispatch. What's his name? One of the January 6th officers, Daniel Hodges. That was an interesting one. But yeah, it's a good place for that. It's a good place for networking. So I'm confident we'll be able to get on. We'll get some good people with the help of maybe Brittany Martinez, who we had on a few weeks ago. But I think they're going to give us a media pass too, so we can sneak into areas, Thomas, where that the other people can't see, and we can infiltrate, and we can
infiltrate. Hidden microphones, places. No, I don't.
Investigation. We can do an undercover sort of thing. That would be good. But yeah, I know I've gotten to know a number of people who are very much involved with that organization, so I think they can probably help us out a little bit too, and get those people on. But yeah, I think that'll be a lot of fun, and I'm very much looking forward to it.
Yeah, sounds good. And I guess we could probably wrap it up. Merry Christmas to you and your family, John.
Well, thank you, and the same to you. And we want to, this is a good place to wrap it up. This special holiday episode of the Reagan Caucus podcast. We do want to thank everyone who's listened to us this year, and everybody who's come on to talk to us. We appreciate all of you, and like I said, we'll be back next year with more great discussions. And I should probably finish it off with the normal stuff. As if you watch this today on YouTube,
do you think we can get one thing recorded before January 5th? Would that be when we probably have an episode back?
Yeah, we'll get that. I think so. We'll talk, and I'm sure we'll be able to get somebody on to talk between So I think when you look at the calendar, I think we're just going to be off one week. So
yeah, that's right.
Between Christmas and New Year's. So yeah, we'll be in a good position. I have some people lined up already, some good guests that we haven't nailed down the dates, but I think that shouldn't be a problem. I think we can get something recorded. So it'll go out 2 weeks from when this recording everybody's listening to will go out. So I think we're not really gonna miss much of a beat here, and we'll just have 1 week that's down.
All right.
Excellent. So again, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you like and subscribe. The same goes for Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Again, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and Happy New Year to everybody. And we will see you next time on the Reagan Caucus Podcast.